Good afternoon. My name is Dan Miller, and I teach 5th grade Humanities at the Sage School. I thought I'd start my first blog post just talking about some of the ideas that I brought up at Back to School night, on the off chance that you weren't able to make it, or in case you just liked listening to it the first time so much that you wanted to listen to it again. So here we are. I wanted to start off with a quick introduction. The Sage School is a school for academically gifted, curious, wonderful kids. And it's a wonderful place to work, and it's a real honor getting to come in every day and work with these human beings. I love my students, and I love our families, and it's just a pleasure. This is my 9th year here at Sage, and it keeps on getting better and better and better. I love teaching humanities. I focused on language arts when I was in college, but I took a minor in history because I love history and I love language arts. But I think they're better together than they are apart. It's kind of like coconut and chocolate, right? Or caramel and peanuts. I mean, they're just better together than they are apart. It's the whole is greater than the sum. I'm going on and on. I'll stop. Okay, fine. The thing is, social studies is exciting. It's the biggest story in the universe, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. But I feel like without the substance that the language arts gives it, without the writing and the storytelling and the wonderful fiction and reading that we have available to us, I feel like it lacks a little certain something. So it's wonderful being able to bring these together. Likewise, just studying language arts sometimes can be really mechanical. Like, I love teaching grammar. I love it. I'll say that again in a little bit. But when you can put anything that has to do with writing or reading into the larger context of the human experience, I think it becomes richer and more interesting. So moving on to my next section, the 3-year rotation. We do this crazy thing at Sage, and it's awesome. We have a 3-year rotation in the junior division, and every year we teach different material. So if your child joins us in 3rd grade, they might, for example, study the American Revolution in the fall, and then in 4th grade, they might, for example, study Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, and then when they're in 5th grade, they will study instead medieval Europe and the Renaissance. It's amazing, and depending on where you enter into the cycle, you'll study different topics in different grades, except that it'll always be perfectly adapted to your child's level, where they are ready to learn about these things. And yes, that does mean that some kids are going to be learning about ancient Egypt, perhaps at an age when they aren't ready to grasp its nuances and complexities. But wow, it turns out they're going to study everything here again anyhow. This is not the last time they're going to study the American Revolution. They're going to take courses in ancient history as adults and as teenagers. So really you need to think about our social studies curriculum as being sort of like a world history survey course over the course of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And we're teaching them to love the story, and we're teaching them to get excited about these things, and hopefully the next time they study the American Revolution in college and in high school and in middle school, they love it. They just remember how much they enjoyed it when they were little. So that's our goal. And through these amazing stories, we teach skills. So this year in the rotation, we start off with prehistory, cave people, and then we move on to ancient Mesopotamia, and then ancient Egypt, and that'll take us straight up through Thanksgiving, and perhaps even a little bit into December. And next up, after we finish with ancient Egypt, we get to move on to the Humanities Fair. Now this is a long unit where the students are each going to pick a topic that they're excited about, and they're going to research it, and they're going to read books, and they're going to write papers, and they're going to put together this brilliant presentation, and they're going to share it with their friends and their families at this really wonderful project fair. It's called the Humanities Fair, and it might be the highlight of the year. Double thumbs up. And then the 3rd term, we come back to the good old US of A, and we talk about the Industrial Revolution and how that changed the world, and American immigration, the peoples who came to America to find new lives and to help found the greatest society on the planet, USA. Okay, so those are our themes this year, and throughout all of this, we'll be reading historical fiction. During our reading of, or during our study of ancient Egypt, we read Eloise Jarvis McGraw's Mara, Daughter of the Nile. And then later on in the year, when we're studying industrialization, there's this wonderful book by Catherine Peterson, named Liddy, which I think is just fantastic. And finally, we get to study this great book called Dragon Wings, which is really serious and heavy. But I won't talk about that on YouTube, but I'll definitely say something at back to school night. All right, so that's social studies. Like I said, it's a way for us to give context to a lot of the skills that we're working on. Skills? What skills are we talking about here? Well, a lot of them, really. First of all, discussion skills. We have conversations as a class about these materials as we're studying them and as we're reading about them. We have our presentation and public speaking skills. That's a really big part of our curriculum here. It's really important not only that you know what you know, but that you can communicate yourself. And that's really what's more important in this modern world than just about anything else. Being able to say what you mean in a way that people would find engaging and clear and meaningful. Right? Right. So we get a lot of practice all year long, and your kids will really get better at it. I'm serious. I mean, I know you have no way of necessarily like measuring how good they are at public speaking and then objectively like weighing them later in the year to find out if they're better at it, but I assure you they get way better. Like these presentations are way more fun to watch in the spring than they are to watch in the fall. Not that I'm... All right. Okay. Finally, we have those geography skills. Geography is like a major component of everything that we study, but we also try to make sure that we're keeping up on contemporary geographical issues. Just last week, we were talking about the independence vote in Scotland and the geographic and historical impacts of that piece. Furthermore, there's a lot of reading involved in this. Like I said, there's a historical fiction. We also have a lot of choice books this year. We do a lot with short stories. We do a lot with poetry. We do a lot with primary sources. Primarily, we like to discuss literature in groups. It's called a literature circles discussion. Every child gets better at contributing to a group discussion in a way where they can take responsibility for what they bring to the discussion. Water. Next, I want to talk briefly about writing. Expository writing gets a lot of work in 5th grade. In addition to really hammering home those paragraph skills, we really start talking about the 5-paragraph essay, which is a format I realize that they will need to grow past, but it's a great place for 5th graders to be. It gives them a lot of structure. It helps them really think about it and to explore their logic and their reasoning and finding evidence without worrying whether the structure of their piece makes sense. So they can sort of use it as a crutch. But going forward in the middle school, they will absolutely just blow past the 5-paragraph essay. But in addition to expository writing, I think it's a great opportunity to really work with our creative writing, which is one of my passions. I'm really excited about creative writing. So they'll be writing a lot of stories. My heavy emphasis at the beginning of the year is on conflict, which I think is at the heart of every story, and resolution, and the importance of there being resolution if there's a conflict. But later in the year, we're going to be moving on to ideas like character motivation. Finally, I want to talk briefly about Latin stems and grammar. Here at Sage, our vocabulary curriculum is based around the studying of Latin stems. There's this wonderful curriculum by Michael Clay Thompson that we've been using forever, and that they will continue to use in the middle school. Today, this year is like sort of a stepping stone along that path. So they'll be studying word chunks that we got from ancient Rome and how those form our modern language. And ideally, they'll be able to see words that they're unfamiliar with and like just see those word chunks and like just break them apart and then like understand that and like use the context to understand new words magically and mystically. And then finally, grammar. There are very few 5th grade classrooms on the planet that study grammar intensively. So it's something I know that they're going to study again in the middle school, but I love teaching it, so I perhaps make it a bigger deal than it should be or needs to be. Suffice it to say, your kids are going to have a rigorous year in grammar, and they're going to learn a lot. And when they get to middle school, they're going to be ready for it, and they have a lot of really amazing skills that are really going to blow you away. And if it feels like they're struggling at times with this material, you should just remind them that very few 5th graders on the planet study grammar this intensely, and that they'll come back to this stuff repeatedly throughout their career. And aren't they learning so much? All right, so that's mostly what I said during my humanities spiel at back to school night. Hope you enjoyed this blog post, and I hope it didn't go too long. All right, have a lovely evening. Bye.